started while Don puts his email. And if you are on the mindfulness, and I will be there, if you were on, make sure you email me afterwards so I can give you a certificate, because that will count. That counts. And I'm not going to be doing a mindfulness one anytime soon because I'm learning from Don. So so you're right. Don will go together right now. We'll mix and blend right now. All right. So here's the funny part of what. Okay, are we ready? This I already am so excited because I think I'm so funny. I don't know if anybody else is gonna find me funny, but you know what? Okay. This is what I thought about today as I was thinking using or not using technology or too much technology during a Zoom call where we all are in virtual school.
It is kind of
yeah. Wait. Don't ruin it. Hold on. Are we ready? Are we ready? Can you hear it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little.
Yep. Good old Alana.
That's all I could think about. I kept singing it in my head. So I have other words. Are you ready? I'm going to sing. So get ready. It's too much tech when you're on a Zoom call. It's really old eyes that are ready to fall out. Are they ready to fall out? Yeah. Holy, whose eyeballs are ready to fall out? Like right before this, my son's like, what are you doing? I had a Parker Mountain comfort wrap thing over my eyes that like blocked out, and it's lavender spearmint, and I'm just like, I looked like a old lady. And I was just laying there with it over, and he's like, what are you doing, Mommy? I was like, my eyeballs hurt, buddy. My eyeballs. How many people feel like the same age, but your eyeballs feel 90? Right, my eyeballs feel 90. It's crazy. I can't even. So that's all I could think about today was my eyeballs feel bonkers, and that we're doing a too much technology workshop on technology. But there's no other way to do it. But I thought this one's really helpful because when you're not doing this for the hour, right, there's a lot of kids that are on. I talked to one today. I said, what are you going to do after I talk to you? And she said, oh, I'm going to go and build my city. I've built a lot of cities. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. What's that all about? So she's on like pretend Minecraft because she didn't want to spend $6. So she bought the free version or got the free version. And she's making all these cities. In my head, I thought out of recyclables is what I thought she meant. Because I have a 7-year-old. So I thought we make cities out of recyclables. She's making on the computer. And I was like, do you have any plans today to like do something that doesn't involve tech? She's like, nope, I don't. And I'm like, oh. Right. So someone said in the meeting this morning, every time Brennan gets on, I'd like to think he's a cool kid. And everybody's like, Brennan, can you talk on Google Hangouts? You're never on Google Hangouts. And the teacher was like, well, I hope Brennan's outside playing. And I was like, yeah, we do the computer stuff when we need to, and then we're playing. We're not on the computer to be on the computer because it's too much. And I think we're going to have a lot of kids that maybe weren't addicted that are going to be addicted to technology. So Brennan's like, Mommy, can I get Minecraft? No, because I could see this is the time I will be so lackadaisical on it because Mommy, can I play Minecraft? Yeah, you can because I have to do work or send emails or send certificates. And then what happens? He's like, Mommy, I promise I won't beg for it. And I said, I know, but I know in your head that you don't plan on it. I know in my head that I don't plan on you playing a lot. But in today's world, the way the world is right now, I think that plan is not going to be a good one. So, oh, my record thing, I did that. so when we are not doing this, I encourage people not to be on tech. And we're going to find out why. We're going to find other things to do. And then when we go to school, we're going to find out how not to use tech so much in school. I remember one time I said, how many people here know how to read and write? I was talking to a group of adults, but one adult at lunchtime went and got their 9-year-old. And their 9-year-old was there, so I had to watch what I say, right? I was like, don't say bad words. So I said, how many people here know how to read and write? Everybody raised their hand, right? I said, how many people learned on an iPad or technology or an ABC mouse or any of that? The 9-year-old was like, I said, how about the rest of you? No, nobody learned on technology. How many of you right now that are in front of me right now learned on technology? We didn't learn on technology, right? How many people are pretty good at reading and writing, right? But that's like the way to be, and I get nervous about that. So I've done lots of research on why not to do it. Some of it's too overwhelming and some of it is good to share. So this is one of the things that is good to share. So children would not suffer the slightest if they did not see one computer till the age of 9 or 10. I think that idealistically might be true. Because they're doing what? They're outside, they got fresh air, they're learning how to build and engineer and gross motor and all that reading and all that stuff, right? But I don't think Howard Gardner saw this happening with what we're doing and everybody learning things on different computers and iPads and, right? We got my son, this is how technology up to date we are. So he had this one that we got that was old and it didn't work. The one that you like stick in the iPod, I don't even know what that's called, iPod thing. It didn't work. It doesn't play for some reason. So then I bought this one for $40 and we bought iTunes and he has like 6 songs. And it's like the iPod Nano 8 gigabyte. And he's like, Mommy, this is so cool. Before this, he had a Walkman with cassette tapes and a CD player with CDs.
Wow.
That's what he had. And he would stick it on his little belt and he'd be like, yeah. Now he has, and you should hear the songs he plays on this. It's like Rose Tattoo by Dropkick Murphys. It's on here.
Yeah.
My husband likes rock and roll. My son does too. And I was like, Poison, Guns and Drums. I don't know what that, yeah, that one. I'm like, but what are you teaching him? He loves Metallica and he has a lot of questions about some of the lyrics in those songs. I send him to my husband because you introduced him to those songs. Not that country's any better, right? It's really depressing sometimes in country songs. They lose everything and get it all back at the end. But it is best for the child brain actually not to be in front of a computer till when? Do we know? I'm going to write down a piece of paper. Till when? So I interned with Bev Boss. She has since passed away. But she was big on no technology. There's no technology in her school. There was a digital camera that we took pictures of, and then we printed them out and put them in the kids' little shoebox to bring home. You ready for the age that it's best for the child brain not to be in front of the computer?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah,
14. In today's world, could that ever happen?
Nope.
No.
No.
No, because they would be behind, yeah? But we say, oh, that's needed, that's necessary. We all learn to read and write and new things. Do you remember when you had to like do a project on like Alaska and you had to find the A Encyclopedia Britannica and look it up?
I go to my neighbor's house.
Right, because you didn't have a set, right? Or you had to like plan a time. You couldn't procrastinate because our library's not open on Sundays. So you couldn't go to the library and use Encyclopedia Britannica on a Sunday because it was closed and you were like, ah! And I was going around, Terry, to my neighbors being like, do you have the A Encyclopedia? I need an A Encyclopedia because you couldn't just Google it. Now you're like, oh, the Google knows, and you just,
Right.
how many people have asked Google really weird questions and answers have come up? Oh my gosh, so many weird questions that would not be in Encyclopedia Britannica. Now, sometimes I see them at the like yard sales or library sales. And I was like, oh, you just give them away at this point. Encyclopedia Britannicas are like just, I don't know, people I think upcycle them and make things out of them. I gave my son's school a big wooden tabletop, and the director, the owner, put books on it. books, Encyclopedia Britannica books for the legs of the table.
Mhm.
She's like, I had old encyclopedia, so I measured them all up, and the table's a little wobbly because, you know, so like M is bigger than Z. So she figured that part out. But we shouldn't be in front of the computer. We shouldn't have kids in front of the computer doing this sort of stuff under the age of 14, except that's not realistic now. But then the research shows, the research hasn't changed, it's still bad for your brain. But now schools, I don't know if they haven't caught on to the research or if they don't like the way we did it before, but it's, kids are having a harder and harder time now, and it's being used as punishment and rewards. And right in my realm of work, that's what's happening with it. We'll talk more about that. So technology, here's the hard part of technology. It is 20 minutes at a time. So we're on 3 times too long right now just to listen to my beautiful singing voice. You think I should be the next Alanis Morissette? So we're already on too long. 20 minutes at a time, because our brain starts to go, right? Technology rewires the brain for fight, flight, or freeze. That's the last one. So it does, you know, remember if you were in my trauma workshop, you saw this. Fight, flight, or freeze. So here it starts, we're hyper alert to danger. That's what happens with fight, flight, or freeze. Then it goes to, is this a normal cue or a danger cue? Well, if you're on technology for more than 20 minutes, you go into fight, flight, or freeze, but it's not a danger cue though. It's a normal cue, but your brain sees it as danger. So then you move down here to fight, flight, or freeze, right? So now you're at this because you've been on the computer too long. And you see it sometimes with really little kids when you ask them to get off. What happens?
You melt down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
meltdown, right? Because what happened? It's too long and they're in this now. And then it's cannot take in nurture or information to make sense of the cue. It's hard to explain to them, well, I gave you a 20 minutes or half an hour, and then I gave you a 5-minute warning, and now it's time to be done. We're going to do something else. Can they take in that information? No. So then they go back up to hyper alert to danger, and it just keeps going around in a circle. That's what happens in the traumatic brain, but the traumatic brain also goes into fight, flight, or freeze. It's the survival part of the brain. Technology does that as well. And we're having a lot of kids that are in fight, flight, or freeze because of all this technology we're doing. Before this quarantine stuff happened. Now imagine, it's the only way to learn right now.
And that's hard too.
It's what?
It could be hard for a lot of kids to learn on the computer too.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm not on the computer. It's weird that to talk to you, I know for me, to talk to you and not like be able to like touch you and like snuggle you, and right, I've seen most of you in person, that it's weird to like have on my headphones and be in pajamas, right? I have pajama pants on, you don't know. Well, you do now because I told you. But right, it's just weird. And then kids don't, if you don't have a lot of experience with the computer, because technology wasn't a big thing in your family, my son's like, I just want to know how to use the computer. And I was like, well, now's a good time. So we're having like a little computer class for like 15, 20 minutes to show him how to do stuff, because he wants to get in. Mommy, can I just press the thing to get in the Google Meets? Can I just press it? And I was like, sure, bud, you could press it. But he doesn't even know how to like work. He's like, I want a mouse and I want this. And because he sees it happening, but he doesn't really know how it works because we haven't really introduced it to him, because he's 7 and he's an adventure kid, an outside kid. And that's the kind of kid I want. But now we're forced into it, right? We're on it for more than 20 minutes at a time. I mean,
It's hard with, like, I have a nephew who's 2 and his school is coming in at like certain times of the day and meeting like the teachers, and they say hi and do like the morning song and whatever. But it's so hard for them. Like, they don't, my 2-year-old doesn't understand.
No.
that-
How did you get in that box? Who put you there?
Right.
Right, they don't understand. No, and I don't even know, right? I have mixed thoughts about that. Like, is it necessary to do morning meeting? Maybe, for structure and routine for some kids. For some kids, it's like, how did you get in there?
Right.
Like they don't understand, right? And at 2, under the age of 1, it's really bad. Any sort of technology. I learned that right before my son was born, that under the age of 1, you want no technology. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I was like, when I had Brennan under the age of 1, he saw none of it. None of it. And that's pretty stressful. Because could I have put him in front of the TV so I could have made dinner? That would have been better. Right? And then at 2, it's has to be quick, and right, we don't want fight, flight, or freeze brains on a 2-year-old.
Mm-mm.
But there's some 2-year-olds that I see them all the time, whose parents must be feeling bonkers. So one parent stayed at home, you could see, and the other 2 were in a stroller, and both of them have an iPad, but they're little. But they're walking on the beach with an iPad. And I was like, hi, you're missing the ocean.
Yeah.
Do you even smelling the low tide fart smell? Did you even smell it? Or you're not, what's happening? Right? And it's so sad. And I want to take it away and be like, just talk to them. But
Right.
technology's easy. 20 minutes at a time. My son's going to be on three times longer than he's supposed to because I'm on this 3 times longer than I'm supposed to. So then I'll have to say, bud, we're going to get off. And then he's like, oh, it's always a boo hiss. Would he stay over there forever? Yes. He was watching Trolls, I think, is what he was watching this past time. So how do we do 20 minutes a time? How do we stay to that? That's really hard, especially now. And I hope that a lot of people have that information so they don't make these times that we have to get together with kids much longer than that. When I meet with the kids, the older kids, it's about a half an hour. If I'm supposed to meet them at 2:30, at 2:25, I say, I'll call you in about 10 minutes. So it's about 5 minutes over, and I get off about 5 minutes early to try to keep it around that 20 minutes. So they are already doing too much. So I'm trying to get it so they cannot do that. Don't use as a reward and punishment. I don't know how many parents use this. This is the thing that parents will say, hey, you know what? It's the only thing my son will respond to or my daughter will respond to is if I take away an iPad or if I take away
TV time.
and I'm like, well, first of all, that makes it harder for you because how are you going to cook dinner now? Because it is easier for 20 minutes if they're on the iPad and you can cook dinner, right? I mean, I always say that's probably why they were invented. So moms could have like a minute to themselves. But I always tell parents, meet with your significant other or whoever is an adult in the family and say, how long can kids have a day? So a lot of people tell me they pick an hour. Great. So the kids can decide when they use that. The rules when we used to get up and go to a building that was school and not in our house, one of the rules is we don't do it before school. We already have a hard enough time getting dressed, eating, and getting out of the house. And we don't have it during dinner. We don't have it like the next one, turn off 45 to 60 minutes before bed. We don't have it that time. Otherwise, you could do it in 3 steps to 20. You could do it in 6 10-minute periods. It does not matter how awesome your behavior is. You're never going to earn more than an hour. It doesn't matter how hard your behavior is. You're never going to lose time. It's always going to be an hour. It takes the pressure right off the parents. When I say that technology is done and it needs a break, so we do take it away, as if that is the strategy and the kids fight you every single time. So if you've done this and you've talked to your kids about it, you get an hour. If you complain over and over every day, we're not quite at being able to use it yet. So we're going to put it away and we're going to do some other stuff and we're going to grow and mature and we're going to try again later. So I was with a little girl yesterday and she was on her iPad and she was having a really hard time. She had put me, I was on the iPad, right? Because I was talking to her virtually, in timeout. She like barricaded me and then left the room and said she was done. So the mom came and got it and started to talk to me. And then the little girl wanted it back. And she was really upset about the choice she made. And I was like, well, you could stay with us or you could be all done. Those are your two choices right now. She was so mad. And the mom and dad usually take away the iPad. But remember, it has to be respectful, reasonable, and related. So the time you would lose the iPad is if what? The strategy doesn't work of the hour. You lose the iPad, and not for a month. You lose it till you show me you can figure it out. So you have 3 chances to get off the iPad appropriately. On the third chance, we're not there yet. And then you just take it away. But even my son, who doesn't get the iPad often, will often say to me, Mommy, do I get any iPad time today? Do you have any workshops? Yes, but I have 2 workshops. And he goes, oh, that's 2 hours. And I'm like, yep. So I get to deal with you after the 2 hours of bonkersness. But take that off the table. And as a teacher, we don't want to use it as a reward or punishment. First of all, because the kids that are hard are usually the ones that have hard behavior, usually the ones we give rewards and punishments to, yes? With the iPad. And you're like, oh, you earned 20 minutes of iPad time. And what happens? You realize that the kid with the hard behavior on an iPad for 20 minutes is what? Glorious, right? He's quiet, he's in it, he's not bothering anybody, and you get to chill. It looks like he's chilling, right? But except he's revving up his brain for fight, flight, or freeze. But he looks like he's chilling, and you're like, you know what? I'm gonna let him go like half an hour. I'm gonna let him go 45 minutes. I've seen it for an hour and 20 minutes. The kid be on an iPad, and the teacher's like, but he's learning, and I was like, because what happens after an hour and 20 minutes? Do you think when it's like, oh, you're done, buddy? What did that look like? I've never seen an iPad in a school not have the like otter case on it with the handles and the, right? So if you throw it, it doesn't, you know how many iPads I've had to duck out of the way of? Lots. I've seen lots of thrown iPads. So let's take that off the table as a reward and punishment. And when it actually is related, it's called a consequence, right? It's that logical consequence. If my son gives me a hard time, we're not doing it, but then you have to play when I'm in the meetings, or you have to read a book. And he knows that. He doesn't argue. Because it's not pretty, right? I mean, I don't give empty threats, nor do I give in. He knows that at 7. So we always say, we're getting kids ready for the real world with all this technology. You know what? By the time the kids we teach right now, the little ones, have all this technology, you know what's going to happen? Technology is taking over a lot of jobs. How many people did self-checkout in the grocery store? At some point, it's going to be all self-checkout. It's going to be all self-checkout at the post office. There's going to be no people there. It's all going to be robots. So we're having kids build the robots to take away other people's jobs at some point, right? So what sort of things are companies looking for when they're hiring the employees? It has nothing to do with technology. So innovation and innovative thinking. So I put loose parts in parentheses. So I know you guys have heard a lot about my son's robots. I brought one. I remembered to bring one this time. So this one is called iHeartRadio, like the radio station. iHeartRadio. Look, I am a singing maniac today. You ready? So this is iHeartRadio. See, can you see he's on a lunchbox. See the Scrabble letters?
Mm.
He has wheels. And this is his magic wand. This is a Polaroid camera, right? And he could go to sleep. He thought of this all himself. He needed help. And if you go like this, the radio inside actually works. We found it at a yard sale. And it fits in there. See how there's like a thing at the bottom, that wood? Oh, let's see if I can hold it. This wood at the bottom. So the wheels could go in and it could all be together. And he did get this lunchbox for Easter. Did you know the Easter Bunny knew that he needed a lunchbox to build a new radio? So that's iHeartRadio.
That's wicked cute.
Isn't it cute? It's adorable. The first one, Clunk, which I'll show at some point. Clunk has a matching thermos named Sprite. And I helped Brennan make it, right? He designed it. It's the coolest thing I've ever made my entire life, for sure. Out of loose parts. I used to do a digital photography workshop because I wanted people to get credit for a technology course without doing too much technology. And I was like, yes. So show kids Polaroid cameras, and then we would show them like cameras with film and then digital cameras, and right, we went through the whole thing, and I have projectors, but then during this whole quarantine thing, we were looking for loose parts and we can't go to thrift stores to get them to make stuff. So I pulled out my digital photography bin and those things were in it. And he was like, Mommy, that would be, look at, you could see his eyeballs, and it was so innovation for him and innovative thinking. And he was like, Mommy, I just can't stop thinking about the robots. And now he wants to take a robot class, and now he wants to like be a robot engineer. And I was like, he did not get that brain from me for sure, because Brendan told me what to do. I put it all together, and then I went to my husband who builds houses, and I was like, you need to screw stuff together and epoxy stuff. I'm going to go sell some leggings. I don't. I was like, if you need me to hot glue, I'm a good hot gluer. But otherwise, terrible. So we need kids to be innovative. I don't know how innovative you can get on the computer. You can. But I think that it starts off the computer before you go on the computer. It starts with loose parts for little kids. So my son is always looking through like little buckets and stuff I have. He's like, Mommy, what do you got in there? And he's always making things, always. Teamwork skills. How's that look on the computer? And it doesn't count. I think some kids think the teamwork skills is I have my thing on and Emily has one on, and then we play a video game together. Is that teamwork skills? Oh no, I play with my friends all the time on the computer. I talk to them. The other day, my son was on early for Google Hangouts for his morning meeting, and it was him and two other friends. One said, can you talk to me on Google Hangouts later? And I said, oh, Brendan, we can't. We got to do other stuff. And he said, oh, bummer, we can't. And instead of talking then, they did this. And they all just looked at each other. And I was like, and I'm always in Brendan's morning meeting because he gets stressed about the information that he has to remember it because he has squirrels like me. So I peek in and I was like, hey guys, you could talk to each other now if you wanted. You don't have to wait for Google Hangouts. But they didn't know. They just were all like looking at each other. So Brendan tried, and the other kids just didn't know what to do. And I was like, oh, man. So teamwork skills, right? Being able to enter, maintain, and exit planned conversation.
My son's teacher was on Zoom for bioethics, and the whole class informed Daniel he needed a haircut.
You know what? The social piece is always funny to me because you've probably said that to him 1,000 times, right?
Oh, I told him I bought the hair clippers, and I said, I'll cut it for you because we can't go.
Right, exactly.
And he said, yeah, my mom said she'd do it for me. And the teacher is going, let her do it for you.
Uh-huh. It's when, you know how many times I have tried to talk to people about, right, the strategy to teach kids. And I was like, that's the strategy. It's going to take a long time. You know when they're going to learn it? When a kid tells them it. When they go into class or they're, right, oh my gosh, your hair is so long. What is going on with your hair? And then they come home, they're like, Mommy, can I have my hair cut? You're like, really? I've been saying that for 3 months.
That was actually the first thing out of one of the kids' mouths was, oh my God, what's going on with your hair?
Uh-huh. And it sounds different. And it comes across different when it's your friend and when it's your mom.
Laughing.
Yes. So sometimes it's the social piece that kicks in that kids really are like, oh, my mom was right, darn it. And they're not going to admit it. Just say, okay, sit down. We don't want that kid to make fun of you again. He's mean. And then you just clip him. Flexibility. So temperament comes into play here. There's some kids, some kids that aren't flexible, they're rule followers and they fit very nicely inside that box and they're never jumping out. You know who I think the least flexible person that's famous that I can think of that plays an inflexible person is Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. Right? He's very in the box.
Mhm.
But do you learn flexibility from computers?
No,
That's not the best way, right?
no.
We have to be with people to be flexible. So we have to be off. Sometimes we get to non-flexible thought because we're in fight, flight, or freeze because we've been on the computer too long. So we have to switch that up. Imagination. And there's a lot of people that will fight me on, oh, Minecraft has great imagination. I want to say no. We don't have Minecraft. I understand it. I played it one time with a 6-year-old because I was trying to build relationships, and I picked up the block and I put it back down. And I picked up the block and I put it back down. He goes, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know. This is all I can figure out how to do. And it was like I don't know what the view was called, but like person view. So I needed to like look down upon it and I couldn't. It was like coming out of my player's eyeballs and I couldn't do it. And I was mad and I wanted to throw stuff and I was like, oh, this is exactly what I talk about in my technology workshop. This makes me so angry. And creativity. There's some creativity that comes in computers. I get it. There's more creativity when we get to be outside of computers. And I think that imagination, creativity, flexibility, teamwork, and innovation all start before we get on computers, before we have an iPad. It's with loose parts. It's with, right? Where's all of this found? In Play, which I did, right? If you're interested in the Play workshop, I did it. It's recorded. It's on my website. So you can check it out. Here we go, Play. Open-ended play produces more creativity and a higher level of intelligence. So when there's not a start or finish or a correct way to use something, that's where the most creativity comes in play. We need it to be open-ended. They also call it super complex. So simple play is a puzzle because all the pieces go together, right? It's going to make one picture, whether Emily does it or Susie does it or Dawn does it or I does it or I does it. Or I do it, squirrels, or I do it, the puzzle all looks the same, right? It's simple. There's only one way to make a puzzle. Then there's complex play, which is puzzle pieces and cookie cutters. So, not puzzle pieces, sorry, Play-Doh and cookie cutters. So you can make different things, right? It's complex. You have some creativity and innovation coming and some flexibility. Super complex play is Play-Doh and cookie cutters and going to the block area and getting the blocks and putting the cookies on the blocks and then sticking them in the oven and wearing the apron and wearing the chef hat. See how it's all come together? Or take things that are inside, outside, or things that are outside, inside. So I always tell people to bring their blocks outside. People get worried every single time. What? What? Bring my blocks outside? They're going to get ruined. And I was like, come here for a sec. I have a secret for you. Guess where the blocks came from? Outside. They used to be something called a tree. Ever heard of one? Right? All blocks used to be a tree. Yes? And they made them into blocks and brought them inside. I mean, they're probably shellacked or varnished, so I wouldn't keep them outside in a lot of weather because they could crack and you'd have to, right? But then people get so bonkers. Or taking an easel outside, taking snow when it snows and bringing it inside, right? So that is super complex play. That's what we're looking for. So it should be 10% toy, 90% child, which means if it's 90% child, there's a lot of things you could introduce to kids that you do not know the end of. You don't know what they're going to make with it. You don't know what they're going to build with it. You have no idea. You just need to show it to them. My son, because he loves loose parts, I will give him, he's like, Mommy, I'm just so bored. And I'm like, wait 1 minute, bud. And I'll go get a bowl and I'll just collect things around the house for loose parts. Anything that I don't care if he glues or tapes or paints or whatever. And I said, here you go, bud. Here's your loose part bowl. Oh, and you could see the walls like bust out, like, okay, flexibility and go. You can't necessarily do that on a computer when you haven't started with a loose part bowl, or you haven't started with, right, I used to get random things on the beach or what I find in thrift stores and just put them on the table when I taught kindergarten. I just put them on the table. Kids are like, what is that? And I was like, I don't know. What's it for? I also don't know. I bet you could think of something. They used to draw pictures of what it was for. They used to tell stories about it that I used to write down. Oh my gosh, it was awesome. I found it looked like an alligator head skeleton at the beach, but it can't be an alligator because I live in Hampton in New Hampshire and it's cold. Alligators would be like, what the heck is happening? But it looked just like an alligator. We spent all year trying to figure out what it would be. And our answer was alligator. It wasn't, but I don't know what it was. I bleached it, I brought it in, and it was just like a head on the table. That was an all-year project. They would come back to it. They would look it up at home and come back and say, I think it's a such and such. And I was like, all right, let's see, right? That's where technology worked. Because we'd say, what do you think it is, a duck-bill platypus? What does a duck-bill platypus skeleton look like? And then it would show you and we would compare and contrast, right? That's where technology is awesome. Brains learn. Hello? Hi? Someone say hello, or is that just me? Oh no, was that my squirrels out loud? That's embarrassing. They just came right outside. Okay. Brains learn best by creating meaning, which means children have to play around with stuff, which means what? We have to give kids lots of time to figure it out, to put it together, to make mistakes. Except is the school give kids a lot of time to do much nowadays? Not really, right? There's a beginning and an end time for things. And I don't know how often they put things not away, but to the side and then come back to them later. But that is great stuff to do, is come back to it later. Why? Because then the kid's brain, right, is doing all that stuff that we want it to do. It's thinking, it's being flexible, teamwork, imagination, creativity, but it's now thought about it a little more, and now it can come back, and hopefully all of those 5 things have expanded a little bit. So we could get ready for when we do have to be on technology, that our brain is open and ready for that sort of stuff to happen. Children need patterns, relevance, active involvement, reflection, and quiet spaces for brains to grow healthfully. They need quiet, and this is where technology gets confused. So they're like, oh yeah, we have quiet spaces, very quiet when they're on technology. You think that's what they mean? Quiet spaces? No, that's like, my son and I did a creative writing today, and the prompt was something about, we had a portal, and what kind of portal was it, and you had to write a story. So we both snuggle up on the couch together, and I write with him. He writes his, I write mine. And we just hang out, and we're supposed to do it for 16 to 18 minutes and just write. We need that time. I can't imagine trying to think and be thoughtful and learn, and while I was trying to write, have someone talking to me and music playing and lights. Imagine. Can you imagine doing that? Would you be able to creative write with all that background? What does that sound like? I'm trying to learn with lights and computer, right? That's what technology kind of looks like. I have to learn, but now other people are talking back here, so I have to like try to figure out how to get that out of my brain, right? What kind of white noise it out? How do I do that? And then we keep introducing technology, younger and younger kids. At 4, do you think 4-year-olds can figure that out? No, so then they put headphones on and then they block everything out, and there goes teamwork, there goes creativity, there goes, right? Now you're in a tunnel vision like this. How many people get in tunnel vision when they're on the technology like this? Right? And you have to bust out of that. The body and brain are connected, so movement is needed to connect all senses. If you're in my movement class, you know that. Do you remember old school Nintendo with the jump pad? Remember they were in like track practice and they had to, I did track at the time. So we used to run on it, and then you're supposed to like jump, but we would get off of it So it's like we did a big jump and then you had to know when to press it, because if you left it go too long, the person collapsed. Do you remember that? On the like, well, yeah, it was the jump. I think it was called the jump pad. We were hysterical. Now they have what? Now they have a Nintendo Wii, right? They have the Wii, because people know that learning and thinking is connected in the brain. So all these video game people are trying to figure that research piece out. My son realized the other day, he had a pedometer on, just like a Fitbit, but it was like a old school pedometer. And I said, Bud, watch this. Hold it in your hand and just go like this with this arm. Don't move your feet. Just go like this. I said, now look at it. He's like, Mommy, I just got 200 steps. And I was like, that's so weird. I didn't even see you move. Does anybody know that if you wear a Fitbit and you just go like this with your arm, it thinks you're going somewhere? So I don't know how many steps you get for drinking vodka and tonic, but I think it's a lot. I think it might be a lot. Or beer. I don't know. Wine? Anybody? I've had some people join me with wine before. Those are my favorite people. You'd be my absolute favorite now if you did it, because it's 2:45 in the afternoon. Oh, woo! Susie, you're my favorite. So do you know that when there are video games for kids, do you know that they hire a behavioral psychologist to figure out how to addict the brain to the video game? Did you know that?
No.
That they hire behavioral psychologists to find out how it can be more addictive so kids continue to stay on it. And we let that happen. And then we introduce our kids to it. So I'm not a behavioral psychologist, but I'm in behavior. And I was like, oh, when I found that out, I was like, oh, those little stinkers. Because that's awful. But we just, and right, the frontal lobe is not fully developed in little kids, and in boys it takes longer. And I feel like there's a lot more boys that do video games than girls, in my experience, in my professional opinion. I don't know if that's a universal worldwide thing, but the kids that I hang out with, I had one boy who, when I worked with him, he might have been 11 when I started with him. He was 13 when I ended, and school, video games were up here, school was down here. My goal in the 2 years was to even them out. I knew I wasn't going to get even. But he was so addicted to video games that he had a truancy officer. You know what a truancy officer is? That if you don't go to school for enough times and you're absent too much, a policeman comes to your house and puts you in a car and takes you to school. I was like, dude, that's embarrassing. He was like, I don't care. He would get up and be like, you know what? I don't want to. He was just so like, Arr. And then I said, dude, what are you gonna be? What are you gonna be? What are you gonna be when you grow up? And he said, he wanted to be Twitch, who is this 70-year-old man, I think, that, or this is what he told me, that plays video games and makes a lot of money. I said, oh, do you have a YouTube account? He said, no. Well, then you're probably not gonna be Twitch, because you need one of those to be right? And he said, you know what, I follow a lot of video game people. I said, of course you do, because you're on video games all the time. And he said, and there's this one guy, I don't know his name, because I didn't really care what his name was, to be honest. And he's like, and he has a detached retina. Isn't that cool? No, that means he played so many video games that his eyeballs broke. He legitimately has broken eyeballs. And he goes, and he had surgery, and now it looks so cool, because it like is kind of like, doesn't look right. Like you look at him and it looks funny. And I was like, huh. So his mom and dad are both eye doctors, which is hysterical. And he had something where like when you look, and you don't, just like if you didn't move a lot, right? If you don't touch your toes often, at some point, you're not gonna be able to touch your toes. If you keep your eyes like this and you don't keep looking around, what happens? Your eyes only know this movement. So he had to like practice going like this and looking all around to like exercise his eyes because he played too many video games.
Wow.
He wouldn't go to his dad's house because his dad didn't have a video game console. So his mom bought him a new one for his mom's house and gave the dad the old one so he'd go over. What is happening? He was so hard to talk to. Can you imagine? Do you think he had any of this? Innovation, teamwork skills, flexibility, imagination, creativity.
Nope.
Nope. I never saw him in the classroom. But talking to me, it was like poking my eyeballs out. I was like, dude, can we please get somewhere different in this? It's awful. And then he decided he wanted to be, so he wasn't going to be Twitch because I was right, because he didn't have a YouTube account and that would take a lot of work. So he was going to be the manager at the toll booth. Was his next big thing. And I was like, dude, when you're old enough to be the manager at the toll booth, there's going to be no one to manage. There's not going to be toll booth people. You're just going to throw things in, or you're going to have like a little thing like the Easy Pass. There's not going to be a person. But my cousin doesn't. He makes $17 an hour. That's awesome. $17 an hour is a lot when you're 12. But then we added all the $17 an hour together and how much that would be. And if he lived on his own, he was going to live. So this was his plan. I'm just going to live with my mom. Said at some point you're going to be a doofus because you live with your mom, just to let you know. Like, girls aren't going to want to like date you. Right? Because the very first time I said, is there anything that I would say to you that would offend you? He said, oh, try it. So nothing I ever said was, first of all, it was never mean and rude, but it wasn't offensive to him. And I said, so you're going to be a dork if you live with your mom. And then he said, well, then I'll just live on my friend's couch. Well, then you're going to be a loner, and like at some point your friend is going to get a girlfriend and they're going to be like, you got to move your stinky friend that doesn't have a place to live. And you won't like have a home. And he was like, so then I'll go live with my mom again. And he's probably 15-ish now. You know what the social piece, Dawn, which I think it's going to be? A girl. I think it's going to be a girl. Because he was a really handsome kid. But a girl is going to be like, dude, you need to get off the video games and technology because you're not cool anymore. And I'm waiting for the girl. He didn't like girls when I saw him. He didn't give that a second thought. But at some point, I'm praying. I prayed every time I met him. I was like, every time I saw him, every week, I was like, come on, girl. There's got to be one that thinks you're handsome and wants to date you and get you off those computers. Come on. Because And I told the school, I was like, we talk about video games. You pay me to come in here and talk about video games with him. And I was like, it's not helping. Because he won't talk about anything else. And they were like, we still want you to do it. I did, in 2 years, get him from this to this. It was better. But then he wanted to be the manager at the toll booth. That's awesome. Because and it's awesome if that was going to actually be a job when he was old enough to have a job. It's not going to be a job. I was like, dude, you're going to work at Market Basket or the grocery store or something like that at some point in your life. He's like, no, I'm not. Oh, he's going to live on couches the rest of his life. Oh my gosh. If you're not careful, dude, you're going to live on somebody's couch outside their house, like at the end of their driveway. Like, because it's supposed to go to the dump. Those are the ones you're going to be on. So you got to get it together. Well, I tried. So movement-wise, right, moving and learning is connected in the brain. The hard thing is that movement has changed, yes? So it used to be, it's inside now instead of outside. So it used to be outside, right? How many people spend all day outside? My mom didn't know where I was most of the time. All day outside. What happens now? All day?
Inside.
Inside. And now virtually learning, we have to be inside and we have to do something with our kids. And if anybody's on Facebook, you see all these moms feeling so bad because their kids are on technology all the time. And I was like, it's because we're inside now. They're still, like, coloring books aren't closed or canceled or books, regular books, or listening to music or dance parties. Like, I think we forget because it's been inside for so long, we forget what it's like to do something else inside besides computers or video games or technology. There's other stuff we can do, but I think people, right, what happened to their flexibility? right? It's done this. And we're now the role models for the kids, and we're on technology all the time, so that's really hard. Playgrounds used to have a high level, oops, I'm not on the right page. High level of safety and a low level, or they used to have a lot of challenge. Right now it's high level of safety, low level of challenge. So there's not a lot of monkey bars allowed anymore. There's none of that merry-go-round business going on anymore. Anybody go on the merry-go-round? Anybody swing and jump off the swing? Anybody flip off the swing backwards and land it on
Do
your
you guys remember the slides that were like 7 feet tall, or it felt like that, and they were metal?
and they
That was
burned your
me.
bottom and you were
in the summertime, yes.
and you learned to
Yeah.
go on the slide like this.
Yep.
So your the like back of your legs didn't burn, or if they did, you're like ow, 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 but you still went all the way down,
Yeah.
and you flipped off the end.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're flying.
And if you didn't fly, you would go right into the puddle, and you're like, yes, I wanted to go in the puddle.
And in
Yeah.
the wintertime, it was icy,
Oh.
so you slid.
Oh yeah.
Yes, you had slippy butts. We used to go off mine and we put the sled where we thought we would land, so we could get on the sled and keep going. It didn't turn off out well most of the time, but we tried.
Yeah, and the big long wooden teeter-totters. Remember those?
Oh,
Don't have
the
those anymore.
How many-
seesaws.
How many times have
Walk
you
on those.
lost knocked the wind out of you because somebody jumped off and you were out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and you fell, and you were like, oh, I mean, I'm not a boy, but I'm sure that hurt boys much more than it hurt girls. But, whoo! And you would get up, and you were like,
Yeah.
oh, my bum hurts so bad, and you just walk it
I'm good.
off. I'm getting that's exactly what you said. I'm okay. And your tears, you're like, don't let it fall. Don't let it fall. Don't let it fall. It's okay. It's okay. Yes. Yeah. And you were like, oh, someone would get on it, and you were like, you're thinking, oh, that kid's big. I'm not going to be able to, if he gets off, I'm going flying. Anybody fall or they flew off? I flew off so many of those.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes. And we lived. How many people still alive to talk about it?
I think I
monkey
am.
bars. Yeah, right. Monkey bars. I was upside down. Oh gosh, it was so fun. But now what happened to playgrounds?
Oh, monkey bars were even more fun when you laid on your stomach
Yes.
and you reached
yeah.
down underneath
Oh yeah.
and then you flipped yourself around them.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Side.
Or the gymnastics bars, the like monkey bar, but it
Oh,
was
yeah.
just one single one.
Yeah.
I would do all my gymnastics moves. Do you know how many times I fell and hit my head on the ground? Maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? That might explain a lot now that I say that. I might. That
Bad.
explains. Maybe the squirrels were like nicely sitting, and when I fell on my head, they like dislodged. I don't know what happened. But now in playgrounds, what does it look like? Kids aren't allowed on monkey bars. You can't do all this stuff, and I'm like, but we need
Well, the
to, right?
slides
That's,
are only
oh my gosh, like little.
allowed so many feet, and they've got like a net around them.
Oh, and you can't go up a slide. Oh gosh, God forbid you go up a slide.
We can.
Oh,
Yeah, you can. You can at some schools. At some schools, they have arrows that point down. And they can't go up the slides or one at a time. And the toddler slides, by the time they sit on them and put their legs down, it's like they go down this much because their legs are almost at the slide. And I'm like, come on. And
That's a
I
huge
understand.
challenge in preschool.
That is a challenge at your preschool?
Yeah, the state has so many
Yes.
rules
Oh my
about
gosh.
the playground. I mean, they told
Yeah.
us we couldn't use our playground this winter.
Right. We couldn't either.
I mean, it was unbelievable. I'm like, yeah.
And I love when they say that, and I'm like, okay, when are you coming back tomorrow and staying for a month to see what the kids look like without the playground?
Yeah.
Because if you're not, I don't. So when I went to Bev school in California, she used to have this big tub, and it was full of water, and it had goldfish in it. And she fought the state tooth and nail for years and years and years to cover it with something. And she was like, why? They were like, the kids could fall in and drown.
Right.
And she's like, but that's never happened. We're really careful. There's a lot of teaching skills, right? And she had to put like this chicken, kind of looked like chicken wire over it.
Yeah.
And she cried as she put it
Yeah.
on. It was so sad. And so now,
Yeah.
and I wouldn't say let a toddler go down a big slide without what? Without somebody like being
helping.
hanging out. But I
Spotting.
think
We called it spotting back in the day. you
yeah,
know.
spotting,
Just
right? And
spotting.
gymnastics, right?
Right.
You didn't let kids do round off back handsprings without spotting them. But the thing is that some teachers don't spot, right? They have a coffee culotta break when they're outside.
Well, I also have that challenge with my teachers. They're always saying, be careful, be careful. Oh, don't do that. Be careful.
Oh, kids don't even know what be careful means. Be
No.
careful. They're like, I am careful. I think all kids think they're careful.
Yeah,
It's
sure.
not true, but they think they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. So technology is, right, too many children have iPhones, iPads, right? That has changed. Even if I always think of all the people that told us, all the theorists, like B.F. Skinner and Erik Erikson and Vygotsky and Piaget and Freud and B.F. Skinner are my least favorite. But they didn't know that today's world was going to have iPads, iPhones, all the technology they have. That behavior-wise, it's so hard to like take any of that stuff from way back then and liken it to now, because the world is completely different. And now with this quarantine, it's even completely different than we thought it was going to be. So technology is a savior right now, but I think that we are going to go back to school and we're going to have video game head and controller arms for sure with these kids, which is too bad. Toys today have little room for their own discovery, which leads to instant gratification. Kids can figure out toys like that. There's no wait, right? Do you see that kids have a hard time waiting for things? Right? They want instant gratification. Delayed gratification is really hard for kids. And substitution. Like, that's not
Also-
going to work. You need to have something else.
Yeah, also open and play is very hard for the young children now.
Yes,
They
yep.
don't have those opportunities. And I
No.
can always see in my classroom those kids who have probably spent most of their time either being played with
Yeah,
or
right.
on technology
Mhm.
because they can't, during free choice, find anything to do.
Yep.
And if they do, it's like they go around and do, right? Sometimes temperament-wise, I would do that temperament-wise because of my squirrels. But some kids just like flitter from thing to thing to thing and can't get involved because their brain has not
Yeah.
popped off that, right? Has not expanded. And they don't know how to do it because I've always had an adult with me or I've been on technology and I could see the kids. I could tell the difference between if it's you've been on technology or haven't had the experiences or it's temperament. I could see the difference as I watch kids play.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I'll do the next 4 and then, oh boy, it's already 10. I always feel like an hour is good, and at the end of the hour, I'm always like, no, I don't want to stop. I love seeing all of you. Taking away recess and physical education, we're doing a lot of that. My son goes to a school where he's outside, well, not now, but where he's outside over 2 hours a day. And I said, but there's a lot of schools that you're outside like 15, 20 minutes a day. And he was like, what, mommy? That would not be good for me. And I was like, no, it's not good for anybody, actually. But you're right. It's not good. It's tough, right? We don't ever want to take that away. I don't know. I don't know why you would take it away. The kids that you take it away from are usually the kids that need it most. And then what happens? They sit inside, and sometimes I've seen a lot of times they're on technology because it's the like secretary that has to watch them because everybody else has something to do. So they put them in front of technology. So you take an active kid and don't put them outside because they lost recess, which isn't a logical consequence almost ever, and then you put them on technology to keep them still so the secretary could do her work. And I'm like, oh, there's so much research that you forgot to read for your behavior strategy right now. Less walking and riding bikes and more shuttling, right? We're doing a lot of that. Less free play and more structured inside classes. There's a lot more structured technology-driven classes too. There's not a lot of textbooks where you sit and read with a book. Do you remember how your textbook smelled? I do. And now there's like not barely any textbooks. It's all on.
It's all online.
All online. Yep. And the push down curriculum. So you need to know more and more stuff at younger and younger ages, which is right. I had a mom asked me, like, okay, so my son's 3. When should he learn how to read? In more than double the time he's been alive. Like 7-ish, probably 7 or 8. We're working on it now. I think you shouldn't, right? But you think, I'm going to get these kids really involved in technology. I'm going to get them really with these letters and numbers, and what's going to happen? They're going to be smart kids, maybe.
Yeah, but with no creative skills.
Right. The 2 best predictors of school success is what? Self-regulation, whether you can regulate yourself, that's not a computer thing, and relationships. The two best predictors of school success have nothing to do with technology. Has everything to do with people skills. And intra and interpersonal intelligence, except people, I don't know, I'm not the only one who read the books. I don't know why people don't know, or maybe they do know and don't care. I just don't know. So we are, so great. So Don left all of his information. I'm going to take his, can I share your email, Don, with everybody when I send out certificates?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. And then if you were there, make sure you email me so we can do certificates. I will send certificates for today. Is there anything else I promised anybody? You know how I promise stuff and then I go and write the email and forget it all. Because that happens. No, I think we're good. We made it.
Just like
Anybody coming tonight? I'm doing.
I'm signed up for the class, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do the Zoom. So you had said you would send me a recording of it.
Yes, I record all of them.
Yeah, I'm hoping
Yes.
that I can do it, but I have this thing going on that
I know. Yeah, that's the hard thing when people do it like ahead of time, and then
Right. Well,
I keep doing that with my sons. They're like, "Oh, we're having a Google Meet at 10," and I was like, "Oh, I have a workshop at 10 that I have to do because I have people coming."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I posted a book that is very, very good if you work with young children or if you have young children, that is very current right now because it answers a lot of questions about what we're doing here with this quarantine. It's called What's This Thing Quarantine. It's an awesome book. And
Hey. Yeah, it's in chats, right? I see it.
Yes, I just posted that. So
Nice.
check it out. It's a great book for young kids. I have young grandchildren, and it's been it's answered a lot of questions for them.
Right. Yes, because their world's kind of upside down right now.
Right.
Which is kind of tricky.
Yeah.
So I will send everybody their business, and I will see some of you tonight. What are we talking about? Oh, circle time. I'm gonna make a lot of people mad tonight. I can't wait. Because everybody wants me to love circle time, and I don't.
Yep. I'm anxious to hear it because it is a totally different take on what we've done for years.
Yep, it is, because the stuff we learn in circle are best taught in other ways. And again, I wasn't the only one who read the research. I just know what it says, and then I've gone out there and tried it. But a lot of people don't want to leave circle. They want to get in circle and do it. And then my other ones next week, what am I doing next week? Oh, love versus fear. So those are fear-based strategies and love-based strategies in behavior. Parent communication. ADHD, not that we don't diagnose it, but find out what other things we could be looking at to help kids fill their toolbox, the kids that look like they may have ADHD and we're not allowed to say it, and then they can get diagnosed or whatever, but they're still coming to us. And while that whole process is happening, we have to do something to help these kids. And then sometimes, how many people didn't have kids with diagnosed, and then they had them diagnosed, and the help isn't helpful? I get so many kids like that. And you're like, really, that's your suggestion? It's usually some sort of sticker chart or token something. Makes me crazy. And then the last one I have is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I feel like I talk about it a lot, that I feel like I should do a workshop around it. And then today I'm also doing the next week's ones, but I don't know what they are yet because they're up here. So at some point I'm going to not have workshops to do. So I don't know. I'm going to have to start designing workshops because at some point by August, I'm not going to have any more to do. I'm going to have to make stuff up. With research, of course. Oh, I got to read all my books. Okay, I better go do that now.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, bye everyone. Thank you. You know you're my self-care, and I so appreciate it.
Bye-bye.